O'Reilly. You need parts? O'Reilly Auto Parts has parts. Need them fast? We've got fast. No matter what you need, we have thousands of professional parts people doing their part to make sure you have it. Product availability. Just one part that makes O'Reilly stand apart. The professional parts people. O'Reilly Auto Parts.
You ever get that feeling the walls closing in, the concrete jungle suffocating you? You crave some wide open spaces, the chance to connect with nature, maybe in a spot all your own. Well, head over to land.com. They've got ranches, forests, mountains, streams, you name it. Search by acreage. You can search by location. You can search by the kind of hunting and fishing you're dreaming of. Land.com. It is where the adventure begins. There's nothing like snook hook sets at dawn or catching a tarpon in the moonlight. Find your next fishing trip made easy on fishingbooker.com and experience the magic of the Sunshine State or any other destination on your fishing bucket list. Book a blue water adventure in search of sailfish or go snapper fishing with the kids. With over 6,000 captains and trips to choose from, planning your next one just got a whole lot easier. Download the Fishing Booker app on the Google Play or App Store, or visit them online at fishingbooker.com to book your trip today.
Hey everybody, and welcome to episode number 27 of the Hunting Collective. Of course, I'm Ben O'Brien, and today we're joined by two brothers that just so happen to have founded company YETI. These two brothers are about as regular guys get. A couple of hunters and anglers who love going outside and just so happen to be smart enough to figure out what is now the best premium cooler in the business. And why it's important for me to talk to them, well, a lot of you guys know me as the YETI guy. Of course, a lot of you guys know I worked at YETI for the last going on 3.5, almost 4 years. And I no longer work at YETI. I'm on to a new adventure. And that's kind of why we started this series of Texas podcasts, going back to episode number 24 with Wyman Menzer, for me to say goodbye to Texas as we move north to Montana. And so when I think about the final podcast in Texas that we would put out, it had to be Roy and Ryan Seiders. And it had to be Roy and Ryan Seiders because they're basically the reason I came to Texas, to follow them on a journey to create this company called YETI. And it was a hell of a run. And they're a hell of a couple of dudes with a great story of success that I feel like we can all learn from. So enjoy that story in its totality for episode number 27, coming right up. Roy and Ryan, how are you guys?
Great. Thanks for having us.
Good. How are you doing, Ben?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing real good. It's hot.
It is hot here in Texas.
You'll be out of here next week, huh?
That's true. Yeah. You guys are officially Bozeman, Montana. You guys are officially the last of my podcast I was doing to try to get a final lap in Texas and appreciate my time here. So I figured you guys would be perfect since you're Yetis and you guys are the reason I came here. Mine would be a good way to close it out.
I like that. Hopefully you enjoyed your stay.
I really did enjoy my stay. It was hard to get me to leave.
How long were you here for? Remind me.
4 years, just a little under 4 years, like 2 months under 4 years.
And what were your highlights of Austin and Texas?
Boy, that could be. You're flipping around on me early. Flipping around on me early, man. I remember when we're sitting in the YETI flagship store, and I remember when we launched this thing. Gosh, it wasn't a year and a half ago?
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
And you had a room full of the people.
Yeah, that was fun.
Lance Armstrong, Ryan Bingham's playing with JT Van Zandt, singing a song from Towns Van Zandt. You just had pretty much Troy Landry running around. You had fly fishermen from Montana, bull riders from Colorado.
You had the cowboy, the UFC fighter was here.
Yeah, Cowboy Cerrone was here. So you got like Cowboy Cerrone hanging out with like Flip Pallet.
Yeah, Rob Fordyce, Ryan's fishing guide in Florida.
And so this is
David Mangum.
I mean, what a awesome way to celebrate like what you guys have done and what this place is. Even this town, it just felt like, I think somebody wrote later on that it was the weirdest group of people that had ever been assembled. This town's motto is keep it weird. So
yeah, it was a pretty interesting crew for sure.
Yeah. Do you have any memories from that night specifically, Ryan?
You know, no, not really. Nothing other than, I mean, it's a special night for Ryan and I because, you know, never in our wildest dreams did we ever think YETI would be where it is, and to have that flagship open up, and a lot of those folks that were there were friends and family, but also the YETI ambassadors that Ryan and I grew up and kind of aspired to and looked up to these guys, whether it's, you know, I can't even remember if Flip was there, but guys like Flip Pallet and the rest of the crew. So that's pretty, you got to pinch yourself a little bit to see that.
I think I was that night too, in between sips of whatever, margaritas or whatever I was drinking. But that was one of my highlights because I just remember looking around that room thinking, okay, this is not where I came from. It's a little bit different. Ryan, you have a pretty good power description. Could you describe what the flagship is, what it looks like, why it's here, where it is?
Well, I mean, I think the reason we decided to open a flagship in Austin, if that's what you're getting at, is just so when people, you know, YETI being from Austin, started in Austin, and when people come visit here, you know, and it'd be nice to have a place to go to see all the YETI products and to say that while you're in Austin, you got to go to the YETI store. And so, you know, with all our offices here, we didn't necessarily want it right at our offices, but having it downtown where you can stop in and get a drink at the bar and see all the product and all the way the store is, you know, fitted out. It's pretty neat to see everything. Celebrate
the products, the brand, the history, our heritage. You know, there's a lot of nods to Austin and Ryan and I's family being from Austin. That's a lot of fun to put together.
Oh yeah, and there's artifacts from your life growing up.
Yeah,
tagged into the bar. You're sitting there.
That's a lot of fun.
Is that fun to see?
Yeah, it is. And again, it's can be a little bit like pinch yourself type. You know, overwhelming. Never thought that, but it is. You know, we have a history in the outdoors, and it's fun to kind of see those artifacts from Ryan and I growing up in the outdoors, and whether it's our first deer or you know, our old buck knife or whatever it might be, a lot of memories on each one of those items.
Yeah. All of my stuff like that's displayed in like a bedroom at my parents' house. It has like a treadmill in it.
Yeah. The funny thing is, a lot of these artifacts, my mom tends to, our mom tends to keep everything. So we just had to go visit our parents out in Driftwood and
dig through a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. We got it though.
That was the project.
And my, you know, the one cool thing is our dad always had a camera with him. So all of our adventures were pretty much recorded with good photographs.
Yeah.
And whether it was a Grand Isle fishing trip or a Cedar Creek deer hunt.
Yeah. That's probably a good place to start with how this all, you got to be here. Maybe that's a nice like a bow. I mean, you guys this YETI will continue to grow, and it's going to probably still shock you guys every year.
I think you're right. It will.
But for the purposes of this, it's starting with Roger, your father.
Yeah.
And the way he was as a young man, but also as raising you guys.
Yeah.
To be independent, to be entrepreneurs, to think for yourselves.
Yep.
Talk about, you know, your upbringing. And
so I do think YETI kind of the origin of YETI definitely would be with our dad. And, you know, when both my parents were raised here in Austin, but after the college, they found themselves in Houston. My mom was a nurse, and our dad was a school teacher, woodshop teacher in Houston. And one of his semester projects were building fishing rods with his students, and he was also a big fisherman, and so he did a lot of custom rod building on his own. And he in his classroom and through his own custom rod building, he discovered that there really wasn't a good finish for coating fishing rods. And this is the coating that goes on top of the thread that the thread holds the fishing guide to the rod blank. And I think at the time, Ryan, they were using some type of wood varnish.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Several coats of wood varnish, and it just wouldn't last the life of the rod, and it'd be the first thing that failed. So he was looking for a solution for himself and his classroom, and he got together with an epoxy company, and they developed a 2-part epoxy that was clear and flexible. And so it was a solution, but it was more than what he could use on his own and through the classroom. So he took it to market to see if there's an opportunity there, and went to a local sporting goods store in Houston and started selling it through there. And I think that led to a fishing tackle show called AFMA, which is now called ICAST, which YETI is. That's the same show we go to at YETI. And he created a solution, and it was kind of right timing, and it became kind of an industry standard on both custom rods and rod manufacturers. So if you look at the fishing rod industry, you have folks like Sage, Scott Fly Rod, St. Croix, G. Loomis, all use his finish on their rod blanks.
Wow.
And then he got into all kinds of rod building equipment and how-to videos and instructions, and he wrote some little books on how to build a custom fishing rod. So that was in the late 70s. He started that business out of our garage in Houston.
And you guys were how old then?
I think I was born the same year he started it in 77. And
I would have been about 4 or 5.
And but what that did was it gave him the freedom to move back to Austin. So I think when I was 5 or 6, we moved back up to the Austin area out in Driftwood. But I think the funny thing about his business is that it was always kind of a one-man show. It's him and 1 or 2 full-time employees. And his business was always attached either in the garage or a small building next to my parents' house. Yeah. And so that exposure as a kid from seeing him wear all the hats, right? And those were like shipping and receiving, product development, building a catalog, price sheets. Yeah. Customer service was a big deal.
HR.
and accounts receivable, accounts pay. I mean, it's a little 101 class in small business. And I, at the time we didn't recognize what the exposure we were getting, but it was really a big deal as Ryan and I decided to start our own business. Sure. We'd go to trade shows with him as a kid. And so we understood the industry. We knew the brands in the industry. We knew the guys like Flip Pallet, that kind of the ambassadors of the industry, and that we'd watch their, what was Walker's Case? Sunday morning ESPN.
Yeah, I remember watching
it. It was either Saturday or Sunday.
So badass.
Oh, Flip Pallet.
Yeah. So we would watch Flip Pallet on our Sunday morning ESPN, Walker's K, and then, at the annual AFMA show, we'd see him walking around there as well. And we actually, probably Ryan more so than myself, got to know Flip over those years. And so growing up in the industry and seeing that firsthand experience of running a small business by yourself and doing everything, and even my mom got involved. So during the summers, Ryan and I were working in the business, kitting up, small kits and answering the phone when my dad wasn't available. Just exposure that again, we didn't know what we were getting, but it was it gave us a huge advantage when we decided to start our own business. We kind of had a roadmap, I guess.
I don't want to sound like some kind of shrink or something, but it was a good childhood.
It was in the business that exposure was great, but I think our dad was very hands-on. Our parents were very hands-on, and their priority was their family and kids, and our dad today treats the grandkids the same way they treated us, which is just all out. And if whether it's fishing, hunting, skateboarding, you name it. And it's
your dad's skateboarding.
Well, the funny thing, when we showed a little bit of interest in skateboarding as a kid, and this was probably in the mid '80s, and him being a woodshop teacher, he decided, well, I'm going to build these guys a half pipe. And so in our front yard, which we had some property out there in Driftwood, in our front yard, he built the way oversized for what we needed.
8 foot tall half pipe with about a foot of vertical in it.
You still got any scars?
Some of the later ones after that we built with friends, they were more about a 6 foot with no vertical, and that was more. Is a little
that is a lot fun.
Yeah,
but hey, at the time, Driftwood is 25 miles southwest of Austin. At the time, it was probably one of the better ramps in Austin. So we had kids coming all over from Austin and Central Texas to skate our ramp. Yeah. And my dad tells stories about him. He had a water cooler out there that's way out in the middle of the yard. And he'd go through a dozen 5-gallon water bottles a day because kids would just be out there rotating through. And I remember if we left town, my dad would have to run a chain across it. And but the funny thing is to look back on that and look at the liability that might have been involved with that.
A foot vertical half pipe in your backyard.
Yeah.
Just little kids rolling around.
Oh yeah. And kids traveling in from all over. We did, they were all great and it was a ton of fun. We did that for a couple of years, but nevertheless, my parents and my dad, they were all in on everything we were doing and they're hands on and felt like, business was always kind of second priority to family, which is something that Ryan and I have struggled with as YETI has grown and is kind of taken all of our resources to keep up with the business. Luckily, we're at a spot today that family is first, but we also have to balance that with our own pursuits around hunting and fishing. And when our dad went fishing, it was a family activity.
Yeah, that's the only way to do that, right? I mean, right now he's struggling with that. Yeah, how do you balance that all out?
And we'd pile into his 15-passenger van and take some friends and head to Grand Isle, Louisiana, and fish down there. So, I think our parents offered kind of that visibility into small business and the fish and tackle market, and exposing us to the outdoors at an early age.
You have any? Well, it's funny because a lot of your family members, Scott Seiders, owns his own business. Is very successful. Yeah. Old Scott, and your brother Rick, owns his own business. Yeah, is very successful. Yeah, it feels like it's just kind of the thing.
I don't know. I think we're not smart enough to do anything else. So the funny thing, if I was interviewed by YETI today, I wouldn't get hired. There's no way.
Yeah.
But and that happened pretty early. So I think our way of kind of figuring out our own path was we gotta start our own business. And we saw our dad's lifestyle and we liked it and we knew how to do that, and that's how we kind of
well, nowadays people are like, what's the secret? Ryan, what's the secret? How do I start $1 billion cooling business?
The secret is you just got to do it.
Yeah,
that's the hardest part.
Well, that's what always struck me about you guys is there was no fear of you didn't have to like jump off a ledge to get to be an entrepreneur and start your own thing.
We were already doing stuff before YETI, and so it was just we were doing different things until one of them hit like we needed it to.
And it's not like somebody now you get in the corporate structure and you feel like you're taking a leap. Taking a chance to go do your own thing. You guys never felt like you were taking
chances, felt like I was
did
taking
you?
a chance. I did see, after college, my buddies starting successful careers and making money right away. and that, when you start comparing yourself to others, that was kind of ate at me a little bit, because I felt like I was kind of spinning my wheels and trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And so, to kind of back up, Ryan and I both knew we wanted to start our own business right after school, and we grew up building fishing rods and using my dad's product. And Ryan started a fishing rod company.
Yeah, so I had built fishing rods through middle school, high school, a little bit in college. But when I went to college, I pretty much knew that when I got out, I wanted to start building rods full time and develop a brand name rod company. And so I got out of school at the end of '96, started Waterloo Rod Company in '97, and had a great time with it. Never made that much money, but had a lot of freedom and good lifestyle type business, and learned a lot, made a lot of good connections, and and really enjoyed it. Had an opportunity to sell it in 2005, and I did. And then during that time is when Roy had been getting involved with coolers. Mm-hmm. I think he started.
I think it's a great story how you sold it, because you weren't looking to sell
yeah,
it. So
yeah.
you do that.
I was going to say exactly the same thing. Like, I've heard this story. I want to hear it again.
Probably early 2005. I had one of my best customers that, kind of retail customer, not a store, but he had bought a lot of rods from me, and he was just always afraid that, if I disappeared, that he wouldn't have enough rods. So, he would, every time I'd hear from him, he'd buy another 3 or 4 rods from me. He had a closet full of them. And anyway, he called me and said, "Hey, you interested in selling your rod company?" I said, "I don't know." And he threw out a number to me that wasn't enough to get me interested, since that's the only thing I'd ever done. And so I thought that it was interesting that he was interested in buying this rod company. He was moving out of Austin down to Victoria, and he had someone in mind to run it for him down there. Anyway, about a couple months later, he calls me back up. I was up one night finishing rods and in there late. And he goes, "Well, what would you sell this thing for?" And so I threw out a number that I thought was high. I knew it'd take me a long time to save up that much money. And as soon as I said it, he goes, "Sold." And my heart just sank, because I knew that when this guy said sold, he was serious.
You were going to be like, "Just kidding, man." I
meant double that. And so, you didn't know what you could get away with. But when I threw out the number, he said sold, and I knew it was a done deal. And he ended up having one of his buddies buy it, and it's still run today down in Victoria.
But Jimmy Burns down in Victoria.
Yeah, so it's kind of neat to see that still going.
Probably much more successful than what you
they took it a little more serious than I was at the time.
What'd you do immediately?
So immediately after we closed, I get in my
perfect timing for deer season
truck, and I head to southern Colorado on a bow hunt for elk on public land. And then did that for like 2 weeks, come back and just go full blast into whitetail hunting. I went to Illinois that year, did some South Texas, did some Panhandle of Texas, where we had a lease. That was 2000, that would have been 2007. Yeah, I ended up getting a pretty good deer in the Panhandle that year, my first big one in the Panhandle. And, came home from about September through December hunting and looking for something to do, and then that's when I started helping out Roy at the warehouse he had with the coolers before we started YETI.
Yeah. So to back up a little bit, when Ryan was running this fishing rod company, I came out of school 3 or 4 years later and trying to figure out my path in the small business world. And our dad's business was it could support him, but it was not any bigger than that. The opportunity was not much bigger than that. So I really didn't have an opportunity there to go into business with him. So I got to figure out my path, and I was working on several projects. One of the first things I did was a fold up shooting bench.
Cool.
Yeah. And I went to McBride's here in Austin, and I started selling them a few. And this was a real simple design, plywood top that it could handle a left-handed shooter or right-handed shooter. And the base was like this little fold-up metal sawhorse. And so it packed down really nice. And it was it's a decent product, but it's a pretty small market. I remember
we may kick that back up as this goes live. I want one of those things.
So I was selling some to McBride's and selling them to friends and family. And then I started reaching out to like Cabela's. And I remember just reaching out on a daily basis to the buyer at Cabela's and seeing if I could get any kind of response. And I couldn't get through his assistant. And I sent a couple products up there of these folding shooting benches because I knew if I could get it in the Cabela's catalog, it'd do okay. I finally got through to that buyer up there and he said, "Oh, I like it quite a bit, but, I don't think we're interested in it." So that, I kind of decided to go look at other opportunities. And at the time, my dad was, he was messing around with aluminum boats for the way we fished on the Texas coast. And we'd get these aluminum hulls built down in Florida, bring them back up here to Driftwood, and we'd rig them out. So and he was just doing that for our own fishing.
Yeah.
I decided, well, maybe there's an opportunity there. I'll try to turn that into a business. And so I started going to a few boat shows, the Houston Boat Show, and these were just highly specialized shallow water boats, usually a tunnel hull. I'd hang a 90 horse Yamaha on it and put a center console in it. And, everything about the boats were kind of durable and well thought out, well designed. And on every boat, you would have at least two coolers on each boat. You'd have one in front of the center console and one behind the center console. And maybe you'd elevate that one behind the center console and use it as a kind of a leaning post or leaning platform, and use them as seats. You'd keep your fish fresh in them, your drinks, your sandwiches, whatever. And so everything about the boat was fairly high quality, and but the coolers that were available to me at the time really didn't match up to the rest of the quality of the boat. So
didn't your dad say you only sold like one boat a year or something like that? Isn't there a joke that he used to tell?
He said that we can stay in business as long as you don't sell too many boats. we're losing $1,000, $2,000 per boat. Just don't sell too many of them. We'll be fine.
That's what I remember. That's
that's
about right.
I don't know if that's right, but that sounds pretty accurate. So, the cool thing about the boat business is that I learned a ton, and like Ryan's fishing rod business, it exposed me to a lot of different things and clients and other people and the way they fish. And what I quickly realized about the boat business is that it's highly specialized and it's highly, custom, and everyone has their idea of what the perfect boat is.
Yeah.
But it also exposed me to the shortcoming. We've been using coolers all of our life, when in the outdoors hunting and fishing, but it really amplified the shortcomings of ordinary coolers. The hinges would break. You would use it as a seat, and you'd go out pounding across the bay. That lid would start caving in. The latches would snap. They would fall apart, and so it wasn't really an ice retention issue. It's more of a durability issue. These coolers would fall apart after a short season, and I was frustrated. I wasn't necessarily looking for a solution, but I was frustrated with the shortcomings. So Ryan was actually at a shallow water expo out in Florida, and I remember him calling me up and saying, "Hey, I think I found a cooler that might be a good fit on your boats." And so that original cooler was this Thailand-made ice chest that was rotomolded, and it kind of exposed me to, there is a better product out there that's heavy duty. And I started putting those coolers on my boats, but also recognized that if I'm frustrated with the shortcomings of ordinary coolers, I bet there's other people out there too.
Yeah.
And so I got a hold of that distributor and got pricing on this product and where I could resell it in Texas. So I got that original Thailand cooler that and started opening up accounts here in Texas, like McBride's, Fishing Tackle Unlimited in Houston, and you name it. And so pretty quickly I had a handful of retailers that were reselling this product. I was just a distributor. I didn't own the brand. It wasn't my design. But it was, again, like so many things that happened here, all these were stepping stones, whether it was my dad's company to Ryan's rod company to boats, even shooting benches. All these are stepping stones to YETI. And it exposed me to the cooler business. And pretty soon I was building up a retail network. And after doing that for several years, I recognized that although that Thailand product was good, there's plenty of opportunity to improve the product. So I set out to build one from the ground up, and that's kind of when Ryan was selling his fishing rod company, and we joined up and
he decided he didn't have enough money to hunt for the rest of his life.
That was for sure. Yeah,
he thought maybe he had it, but what strikes me about that, just hearing you, because I never heard about. I knew about the boats and rods, but I didn't know about the shooting benches or kind of the way that you went through it. I mean, you describe it as a step to YETI, but it could have been a step to anything.
Yeah,
you could have figured out.
Yeah.
Stainless steel. Fishing shirts.
Yeah,
It would have been uncomfortable.
Whatever.
It could have, whatever. It didn't matter what it was. Like, it was leading to something always.
Yeah.
Did you always feel like when you were doing that, you were just hustling, or you always felt like, I'm going to find something that's going to be big?
No, I didn't. Our goal, Ryan and I's goal, when we were starting our own business, was something like my dad's company that could support us and our lifestyle. We never in a million years did we ever think that it would turn into something bigger, or even what YETI has turned into.
We were used to these smaller industries, like the fishing industry is pretty big, but the fly fishing trade shows a little smaller. And some of these outdoor companies, they're real specialized and not that big.
They have great brands and they're great companies, but they're highly specialized, and it's they're not very big companies. And they're really cool.
Yeah,
but it's a lifestyle.
Yeah,
it's a lot of fun.
When we started YETI, we were thinking more down that same path.
And anything that we were starting, we were thinking down the path of all we cared about was it being successful enough to support us, meaning us and our family.
Yep. And that's why I always tell people, like, this is what we're talking about here is a plastic box.
Yes.
It's a pretty damn badass plastic box, but like it was only a hunting and fishing thing because that's what you guys love to do.
That's what it was.
It wasn't like, we're like, well, that's where we'll make all the money. We're going to be rich.
I recognized it as an opportunity. I knew that there's potential there, but never did I ever see it going to where it went.
Yeah.
And our frustration around coolers was definitely around hunting and fishing and on boats.
Yeah.
And again, it was way more about durability than ice retention. Ice retention became a really cool feature that, when you do these thick walls with polyurethane foam and a full frame gasket, of course that becomes a big deal and holds ice a lot longer than a commodity ordinary cooler. And for certain pursuits, that's a multi-day trips or you're elk hunting up in Colorado and driving it back to the heat in Texas, and ice retention is a big deal. But our frustration was by far in around the durability of the lid, the latches, the hinges, the handles, all that stuff.
I always say, like, you say, well, why would you need a cooler like that? Well, we'll come live in Texas for just one summer.
Yeah.
And then you'd be like,
even a day on the water in Texas can go through 40 pounds of ice.
Yeah, it's mid to late August right now, and you go outside, you're like,
oh gosh,
this ram
you're running
ice.
from your AC truck to the
still sweating. The AC can't quite do it. But that's always interesting to me, is like trying to analyze as you guys go through this thing. So you start YETI
in 2006. We start YETI, and
how'd you come up with the name? That's always the question. It's a good story too.
Yeah. So first of all, we knew how important the brand was. We knew being exposed to the fishing tackle industry and seeing all those brands there, and guys like Sage, which I thought was a really cool brand.
Yeah.
Sage fly rods. And,
Yeah.
and what are some
4 letters, and it wasn't somebody's last name, similar to what we
Yeah,
had.
this is not a knock on Loomis rods, but that's a great fishing rod. But it's named after Gary Loomis, the founder, and it's just not as cool as a
sage.
Yeah, sage
Smell.
Yeah,
Like
and
brush.
so being exposed to other brands, whether it's Patagonia or Abel, which Abel's the last name, I guess. Is that right?
It was Steve Abel, yeah.
Yeah. So
it was a good name still.
Yeah.
Still a good name. Yeah.
It is. It is.
If your name's something cool.
Yes.
If your last name's something. If you guys
Sims is a great name.
Yeah. If you guys would have been like Roy and Ryan Lightning.
we
like
wanted
Lightning
something,
Coolers would have been awesome.
Short that looked good on a hat. We were used to seeing Sage, for example, on a hat looked great.
Yeah.
And with something short that you could remember. And
do you remember early name ideas?
Yeah, I do. But here, I just wanted to. We knew how important a brand was. We knew that we aspired to be one of those brands that resonated with us, that had a cool name that could remember, look good on a hat, shirt, whatever. So we start putting together a list of names, and we put together a list of about 10 names. And I remember YETI. I mean, like so many things over the years, when I'm starting to think about something, I'll lay in bed and just it'll keep me up at night. So I remember laying there in bed at night, probably early 2006, and going through names after name. Then I don't know how it popped in my head, but YETI, I knew it was kind of that ice monster of the Himalayas. That okay, I like that visual of a cold, tough environment, and YETI was pretty unique. And I liked that it was 4 letters. And so I added it to the list, and it was my favorite going into that list. But as we took that list to friends and family and bounced those different names off those folks, not everyone liked the name YETI, and a lot of times they're like, "What is a YETI?" And I tell them what it was, and
that's not a first good reaction.
Yeah,
what is that?
Yeah, and okay, they maybe they got it after that, but they weren't sure if they liked it, and some people were big fans of it. But when we went back to that same group a week or two later, the one common theme, even if they didn't like the name YETI, everyone. I asked these guys, which names do you remember? All of them could remember YETI. So I thought that was a good validator of what we set out to do, and so we went with it. Some of the other names on the list were we used Tundra. Tundra was on the list, and that was our first cooler
name.
And then Sherpa was on the list too. That was actually a predecessor to the Tundra.
Was that the first one?
The Sherpa was the first YETI.
You run into guys that every once in a while now is like, I got a Sherpa. Like, oh yeah.
Time to cut that thing in half and get a Tundra.
Yeah,
that's right.
Upgrade. They told us the last one you ever buy. But we're just kidding about that. Just joking around. Get you another one.
And we had some other terrible names on that list, and but I can remember.
Those are all good ones, though.
Yeah.
I thought I might laugh at one of
them. There are some that I'm not going to share that you would laugh at.
Okay, please share them. No, all right.
So we went with the name, and I remember the first couple weeks of answering the phone and saying YETI coolers. It sounded weird to me, or felt a little bit weird, and but luckily it worked out for us.
Well, the business gets going, right? So
for a long time it was just Ryan and I, and we're we can handle the business. And again, this is we knew how to operate a business just from watching our dad and from Ryan's previous business. And another thing that we didn't do was we self-funded it. It was something that, we used a little bit of Ryan's proceeds from his fishing rod company, and then a line of credit at from the local bank.
Yeah. And,
I see a lot of companies today, startups, and they all are looking for seed funding. And I don't think we could, Ryan and I didn't have the skill set to go navigate that. So, luckily our earnings supported our growth, and we were able to get it off the ground with the working line of credit from our local bank.
And we were pretty low rollers.
Yeah, we were big. We
didn't spend a lot of money back then. Well, everything, we didn't take money out of the business. We kept it in and continued to fund the growth of the company.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I was living in a house out next to my parents that my parents owned, so I wasn't paying anything there.
Wasn't there a garage or a barn?
Yeah, there was a garage kind of back behind my parents' place that was full of coolers.
Yeah.
And then as we outgrew that, we went down the street in Driftwood and found a warehouse that was sitting vacant. We got a good deal on that and subleased it actually from the tenant. And there's kind of a crazy story behind that as well.
O'Reilly Auto Parts are in the business of keeping your car on the road. O'Reilly Auto Parts offer friendly, helpful service and the parts knowledge you need for all your maintenance and repairs. If you're confused about what part you need, like what wipers are going to be the best, what replacement headlights are going to be the best, go into O'Reilly and talk to the people that work there, because they're great and they're super friendly, and they'll get you squared away where you walk out knowing you got the right thing. They've got thousands of parts and accessories in stock, either in-store or online, so you never have to worry if you're in a jam. Do you need your windshield wipers replaced? You need a brake light fixed? You need some quick service? They'll help you find the right part or point you to the nearest local repair shop for help. The professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts are your one-stop shop for all things auto do-it-yourself, and you can find what you need in-store or online. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts today or visit us at O'ReillyAuto.com/MeatEater. That's O'ReillyAuto.com/MeatEater. You ever get that feeling you're stuck inside staring at screens and a primal urge kicks in? You crave wide open spaces, fresh air, the chance to connect with the land. Well, maybe it's time to find your own piece of the wild, but searching for property can be a maze. That's where Land.com comes in. They got millions of listings across the country, from mountain ranches to hidden fishing holes. Their search tools are like a seasoned guide helping you narrow down what you want. Land.com isn't just about buying and selling. It's about finding a place to hunt, fish, explore, or simply sit by a campfire and listen to the crickets. So head over to Land.com today to turn one day into today, because trust me, there's nothing quite like the feeling of standing on your own piece of earth. There's nothing like snook hook sets at dawn or catching a tarpon in the moonlight. Find your next fishing trip made easy on fishingbooker.com and experience the magic of the Sunshine State or any other destination on your fishing bucket list. Book a blue water adventure in search of sailfish or go snapper fishing with the kids. With over 6,000 captains and trips to choose from, planning your next one just got a whole lot easier. Download the Fishing Booker app on the Google Play or App Store, or visit them online at fishingbooker.com to book your trip today.
So I subleased 2,000 square feet from the tenant, and I think this building was probably 18,000 square feet. In that, I used that a little front right-hand corner of that warehouse to ship and receive product out of, and the tenant was absentee. He'd come in about once a quarter and check on his product that was there. But as we grew, I began using his space for our product.
Yeah.
And I would pile the coolers on top of his product, which was all it was all in boxes and on pallets, so it was easy to do it without causing any problems. And as we and this our leaser landlord would come in.
Ryan's here to like
landlord would call us up and say, "Hey, I'm coming in town next week on Wednesday." So before he would come in, we would pull everything back into our little 2,000 square feet, pile it up so high you couldn't get to anything. And then he would come in, look around, say hi.
Man, y'all are doing good. Y'all are, every time I come in here, that pile gets bigger. The pile of coolers gets bigger. And then then he'd leave town and
Yeah, you guys are like, well, yeah, it's always over here on our side. It's never on your side, if that's what you're saying.
And so, in order to ship stuff out, as soon as he would leave, we'd basically shut down while he was there, and then we would spread stuff back out and start shipping again.
And again, we were low rollers. We figured out how to get things done without.
That had to make you more nimble, right? Because you're like, well, we got $1 million seed money. We can just spend. You're like, we got what's in our pockets.
Oh,
in
yeah.
our bank account.
I mean, if every dime count, and when we had extra capital sitting in the bank, we were using it to go out and go to trade shows, build the brand, starting to do some marketing, or invest into more inventory, and using that to just fund the growth and scale the business. So, but we quickly realized that we needed help. Yeah. And that this thing was bigger than just us. And so that's when we started to look for smart and capable folks to bring into the company. And it was the early guys like the Johnny Caballas and the David Bullocks, and who, these guys were just problem solvers. And because it was a small team, again, they had to wear multiple hats. So David Bullock, our CFO, who we hired as our CFO, I mean, he would help me with the catalog and help me with the copyright. He would also help me with help us with customer service. Yeah. He'd be jumping on the phone.
And to clarify, he wasn't a CFO somewhere else.
No. he was just a smart dude.
Just a guy.
Yeah, with
business degree.
UT MBA.
Yeah,
and so he came in and he spent a little bit of time closing the books each month and working with our bank and hopefully extending our line of credit at the bank and that relationship. But that might have been 5% of his time.
Yeah.
The other 95% was everything else in the small business of, customer service to helping lay out a catalog and the copy that goes in the catalog. So that was pretty interesting.
Well, there's a big turning point around a guy named Ivan Brown.
Yeah.
You're going to tell that story because I think it's one of those things where we talk about, I think it's fun for people to hear about the struggles of what you're going through, and even like the quirky, hey, we're moving the warehouse around.
Yeah.
I think it's fun, but there was a pinnacle in the business where it almost, you were actually planning to shut her down because something happened.
Yeah. So Ivan Brown was our original cooler manufacturer was in the Philippines. Okay. And Ivan Brown was the owner of that factory. And he was also the owner / engineer. So Ryan and I worked closely with Ivan. And as we developed the Tundra, we'd go over to the Philippines, sit down with him and work through these design features. And those early years of the Sherpa and then the Tundra, we had all kinds of quality issues. And looking back, I don't even know how we stayed in business given some of the challenges we were faced with these issues. And but Ivan was just a fantastic resource. And when we had a challenge, whether it was a production issue, quality issue that we're having with our customers, he was always in the weeds with us to help solve the problem. And he saw us as a way to get into the U.S. market and grow his manufacturer over in the Philippines. So, but he was all in with us, and he would come over and visit with us here in the States, and he might travel to a trade show with us, and we'd go spend time over in the Philippines. The funny thing about the Philippines, Ryan and I growing up in Texas, is we felt like I'm in my late 20s. I guess Ryan might be early 30s here. We felt like a fish out of water.
Yeah, that's the term I was thinking about.
Yeah, and I mean, we're kind of homebodies, and being over there, it's a culture shock. Whatever, it's different, and unlike our middle brother, who I think wherever he travels, he feels at home.
Rick,
and he travels all over in his granite business, Brazil, China, Italy, whatever, and he feels at home traveling abroad. And Ryan and I are way more homebodies.
Well, I think that's what people think about the big YETI company now. They think, oh, the guys that founded that must have been like slick, Harvard businessmen. And I always do my best to describe you guys. I'm like, this normal dudes. I don't know what you're expecting, but it ain't that.
No,
it's not what you think it is.
I mean, we did some things that we were sticking our neck out, and I was sticking. I mean, we were going over to the Philippines at an early age, and it was, I guess, getting outside your comfort zone is what it is.
And it helped a lot to go over there together, you know.
Oh yeah.
You spent how long, like long stretches over there?
Yeah, our initial visit was for a few days, and we maybe went back and forth once or twice after that. Then when we were designing the Tundra from the ground up, I think I was over there for a couple of weeks, or if not more.
Yeah. And so you worked with Ivan
closely, yes, and I would talk to him daily by either through email or phone calls, and so Ryan and I had grown pretty close with Ivan, and one day I emailed him, I didn't get a response, which wasn't too unusual, but I followed back up with him later that evening or maybe the next day. And I got a hold of his wife, and Ivan had passed away. And I told his wife that I'm sorry and asked what happened. And she said, well, he was on his way home from work, and two guys on a moped pulled up beside him and shot and killed him.
Oh.
And so we never got to the bottom of the story of what happened there, and it was something that's tragic that first of all, we lost someone that was close to us, and he was a key man to our business. So I remember Ryan and I had a handful of employees at the time, and I remember going into the office the next day and kind of broke the news to them that it didn't look good. I mean, that's how important it was. He was to us, is that it didn't look good, and this we don't know if that factory is going to be able to produce product without him, and we just didn't have a whole lot of confidence in our future. And Ryan and I are deciding what are we going to do here, and one thing we did. We're sitting on a pretty decent amount of inventory, and we decided, well, let's go ahead and raise prices a little bit, because if we're liquidating here, let's go ahead and raise the price and try to get a little bit more money for it. Okay. And so we sent, I think we probably had 50 retailers at the time. We sent out an email and didn't get any kind of response on that price increase.
Yeah, no complaints on the price increase. That was kind of a moment that we learned from about pricing, that you could, that at the way it was selling and with the brand name, that pricing wasn't the first thing people looked at as far as when they were making that decision to purchase a cooler.
Yeah. Then the next thing we did was we started getting on planes and going to visit other rotomolders. Mm-hmm. And at the time in the Philippines, we had the Tundra was a decent product, but it was made from an inferior mold, called a sandcast mold. And we started visiting domestic suppliers, and quickly realized that this sandcast mold that was in the Philippines wouldn't necessarily apply to the U.S. manufacturers, because once you get that product out of the mold, you have to do so much handwork to it that the cost of labor in the U.S. didn't really allow you to do that. So what that did was, there's another mold called, is a CNC mold, just higher precision. And when you use that particular mold, you get it out of the product, and it's the fit and finish is just way elevated. So
very little touch up needed when you bring it out. It's like a mirror finish mold, real pretty part. And when the cooler comes out of that, there's not you don't have to throw additional labor at it to polish it up.
5 other guys to shave it down, make it look good. Yeah.
So we went through that process, and in the meantime, the Philippine factory had got back up and running, and by that time, Ivan had hired a few young engineers that that were able to kind of take over where he left off, and we started getting product again from them, and we're building a supply chain domestically using these high quality CNC molds. So all of a sudden, through that process, our product begins to elevate. The quality begins to elevate because we start refining some of those details. Some of those details in the Tundra, we start refining through this new mold.
Yeah. Did you feel like you had more wiggle room now that you're like, look, the consumer will pay for this? Like,
yeah, that's right.
More in the product
I think so. The consumer's willing to pay more for it. Therefore, we have the room to add value.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what we did. We added value where we could, and the Tundra of those first couple of years is a cousin to the next generation Tundra, and we modified all the details: the gasket, the latch, the drain plug, the rope handles, and so then we started sending. We opened up a domestic factory and got this higher quality part, and then we brought the higher quality molds into the Philippines. So all of a sudden, we're dual sourced now. It's a higher quality part, and it's a value add where we could. And so as tragic as Ivan's death was, all of a sudden we're a much stronger company. We have just a much better product.
Yeah.
Our margin profile helps invest into that growth, and then once we kind of nailed the product and kind of settled back into a routine from there. Okay, let's start kind of putting dollars to work and branding and marketing. And I think our big tipping point was probably in 2010 when we started getting guys like Flip Pallet and Jim Shockey to do 30-second commercials for us and take it to the outdoor channel and talk about YETI being wildly stronger, keep ice longer, it being grizzly resistant, and then just telling our 30-second story. And when we got it on the outdoor channel, that was a tipping point because it was that hardcore consumer like Ryan and I that were around fishing and hunting.
Well, and then people don't remember that back in 2010, you had Jim Shockey was kicking Yetis off the back of his truck.
Yeah,
you had Cy Robertson and Phil Robertson, I want to say.
Yeah.
There was a commercial about wildly stronger. No, keeps ice longer. No, wildly stronger. Like all these.
The Duck Commanders.
Yeah, and it was a much smaller world then, right? You had the outdoor channel, and then you had print. And that's about all there was.
Yeah, that's it. And
the personalities were there was major personalities who somehow you guys got on board with this product early on.
Here's how we got those guys. No other cooler company was pursuing those guys. So the big commodity type coolers of the world, they were mass market, mass channel, and they weren't focused on hunting or fishing. So when we went after Flip Pallet or Jim Shockey, those guys were sponsored by fishing rods or optics or guns or boats or whatever else, but they'd never been approached by a cooler company. So
if you were starting an archery company, for example, a bow company, and you were trying to go in there and find someone on TV and get them to use your bow, is much more difficult because they were already sponsored by an archery company.
Come with a better offer.
Yeah. So having a cooler, and you could make friends with any of these guys, sending them a high quality cooler. They start using it and say, hey, when we get around to doing some advertising, we'd like to get a testimonial for you or maybe shoot a 30-second commercial. And there was a void in the outdoor marketplace, that we could, take advantage of.
Well, and then there's a void in the consumer marketplace.
Yeah, that's right. So a void with that personality. But when we walked into McBride's here in Austin or Fishing Tackle Unlimited in Houston, those guys, they weren't selling coolers because you could go get your commodity, the ordinary cooler down the street at Walmart. So although every single consumer that walked in their doors was a cooler user, because if you did anything outdoors, you were using coolers, the small specialty shops, the mom and pop shops of the world, the little hardware stores, fishing tackle stores, hunting, ammo stores, whatever, those guys, we weren't replacing a product.
Yeah.
We were giving them a product that they could sell to their customer. Now, everyone that walked in the door was a potential buyer because of the price point. It wasn't for everybody, but we knew if we could get our foot in the door at these retailers that like us, there's going to be a certain small percentage that were frustrated with ordinary coolers, and that we could get them to willing to pay up for value add and durability and ice retention.
Yeah.
So when we recognized that void in the marketplace, it was a kind of a light bulb moment for us. It's like, holy shit, this is a big opportunity.
Did you think, this is 2010, 2011, 2012. There's a lot of products out there. There's a lot of shit floating around.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot of people creating markets.
Yeah.
In any segment of any consumer products, there's not a whole lot of people creating anything. And what happened pretty quickly is premium coolers became a thing, where there was never a market for that before.
Yeah.
Or
I will say
not in the
for the
US.
longest time, it felt like we were under the radar. 2006 through 10, 11. Us and one or two other guys out there in the market were doing high-end coolers, but we weren't getting a whole lot of attention.
Yeah.
And then over the last 4 or 5 years, there was just a wave of Me Too.
Yeah. Well, this story builds to when you hired me, really. Right, Ryan? Is that
exactly?
He's not saying anything. Silence.
So in those early years, it's all about finding the right people to bring into the company. And I think there's a lot of things that made YETI successful, but probably more than anything was finding the right people to bring into the business. Yeah. And it was those early guys and gals, but also even the folks that we hire today. It's part of that team that has made this thing so special. And we we've been fortunate to find the right people at the right time.
Yeah. Well, and you grow the thing. Like it's probably best to fast forward to 2015 when this thing's growing. It's growing exponentially. When I first found out about them, it was very much the cup company.
Yeah.
Right. You introduced the Rambler products.
Yeah, and I can't remember if that was 15, 14, or what it
would have been 14. Probably.
Okay. So we recognized early on that the YETI brand could go beyond coolers. Okay, and we recognized that the brand was bigger than a one product company. And essentially, that's what we were with the Tundra coolers. We were one product company. We had different sizes. We had great accessories like corner chocks, tie-down system, seat cushion, C-deck for standing, using it as a casting platform. But we were a one-product company, so we recognized that there was other product categories that we could take this kind of same approach to. And the first natural one for us was the soft cooler space. The soft coolers were, you walk into Target, you'll see a 20-foot aisle full of all kinds of different colors and shapes and sizes.
I always joke that they're falling apart on the shelf.
Yeah, they are.
Like sometimes you'd be like, "Is that broken already?"
Yeah,
it's in the it's on the shelf to buy.
Yeah, and so we the Tundra is a heavy product. It's meant to be more stationary. You put it on the boat, you leave it. You put it on your front porch or the back of your pickup truck, you leave it there. You might move it from time to time, but it's way more stationary. What a soft cooler gave you was the shoulder straps, lightweight, portability, where you can take it, haul it somewhere.
Yeah,
fairly easy. And we just saw the exact same opportunity. We saw that these cheap commodity type soft coolers that it would leak, the seams would bust, and we went through a process of developing a soft cooler. And luckily, by that time, we had folks like Chris Keller who could run a development process for us and put some engineering effort into the front end instead of after the fact. And then the Tundra, all of our engineering went into after.
Yeah, after it was on the market.
Yeah, our market
fixing it up. Yeah.
Our market feedback was our testing process.
Yeah,
we got into. As we developed the product team, our engineering resources went into the front end. And so we know we learned a lot about RF welding and taking coated nylon and not using stitches, but radio frequency to adhere the fabrics together.
Yeah.
Some high-end waterproof zippers that have a docking station that are used in like survival suits for offshore crabbing and stuff like that. And so you combine RF welding, coated nylon, waterproof zippers, and inch to inch and a half of insulation. You have the ultimate badass soft cooler.
Yeah.
And that's when we launched the hopper. And that hopper was probably it was a long development process that took probably 2 or 3 years. And about the same time we were launching that, we were launching the our stainless drinkware.
Yeah.
And vacuum insulated drinkware has been around for a long time, like Stanley and Thermos, and it's always been in like a thermos type setting or a bottle type setting. And I remember Ryan showing me a product that, hey, Roy, we should consider something like this, and using this vacuum insulation technology. And so kind of the natural thing for us, well, let's just make a cup. And so we made a 20 ounce and a 30 ounce and put a clear lid on it. And that I feel like that clear lid was kind of another like a pivotal point for us, because as soon as you put a black lid on a stainless steel cup, it turns it into a coffee cup. And with that clear lid, it gave you the sense of something refreshing, I guess, where you could see the ice and so we launched that, and that
was 2014. It was a different way of putting out products, right? That was the first time you guys got to really sit down and like, hey, we got some success here. We're going to capitalize on our success and create something that we think is going to dominate this market or further continue what we're doing.
Right.
It was a different process. Did it feel different? Were you guys excited coming to work like, let's look at every damn zipper in the face of the earth?
As we brought on more resources, whether it was a product team, marketing team, whatever, and started building out these badass teams, YETI has definitely become more and more like attractive and fun, and being a part of that and being a part of something that's much larger than yourself. And when you have resources, it's a special thing, because you start working with the team towards a goal, and it's way cooler than doing it on your own.
Yeah.
So the cup, the Rambler, the 20 and 30, kind of the magic about that was it did have a wow factor with this vacuum insulation holding ice for a really long time, or keeping your coffee hot for a really long time. But our brand was these coolers that were at $300 and $400, even $500, and even the soft coolers are relatively expensive, that are 10x a ordinary soft cooler, $300. And all of a sudden we're coming to market with a product that's way more of an affordable luxury at a $30 price point or a $35 price point. And it still has a wow factor. It still has a durability, still has, the vacuum insulation for ultimate ice retention. But that price point just gives you that much broader
entry level
that's right.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, a lot of folks that maybe wouldn't pull the trigger on a $300 cooler were pulling the trigger on a $30 piece of drinkware, which is still super premium for drinkware. Yeah. Drinkware's a $9.99 $9.99 item, and now you're tripling that. And with anything we do, we try to find ways to add value. When we're developing product, it's all about how do we make it better.
Yeah.
So we're making a super premium drinkware, and so that blew up.
Yeah, that's what I want to get to, that the blowing up, because when I came on, it was kind of like, I remember when I interviewed with you guys, I think Ryan I think you were probably hunting.
Maybe so.
But I think Ryan sat me down with David Bullock and just asked me questions about like, what's your favorite whitetail hunter? And that's not what I had prepped. I'm like, yeah, what about marketing? Oh, I got it. I got some answers. And so I think I might have said something like, oh, Bill Winke. Love that guy. He was like, yeah. I'm like, okay, this is working out. So like, well, how do you cook up a turkey breast? I'm like, well, put it in the oven. And it just felt immediately like I didn't know anything about Austin. I didn't know anything about Texas. I really didn't know anything about YETI other than it was cool and the opportunity is attractive and it was worth checking out. And once I left that interview, I was like, I'll beg these guys to let me come down here.
Yeah.
And I think people were asking me, like, why? Like, I'm not really. You just had to have seen it.
Yeah.
You have to go in the office and see the sticker wall and see like the open floors and people running around being cool and feel the vibe and be like, yeah, oh yeah, and trust the energy of a place, because that's what always struck me is that energy of what it felt like to walk in at that time. And that's at the time where things were kind of bubbling up to the point where you guys were, Forbes was coming around to interview you guys and the New York Times started poking around and it started to, like, there was more than just
who would have thought?
Yeah. But that spins into, was it I want to say Christmas 2015, is that right?
Yeah.
When
we just couldn't keep up.
Yeah.
I mean, basically the appetite from the consumer for all things YETI, drinkware was kind of leading the charge, but for all things YETI was just like, is everything we could do to keep up with the business. And we didn't keep up with the business. And the demand was here and our supply was here, and there's a huge gap. And, we, and our hiring was probably behind of what it needed to be, and our infrastructure and our systems. We weathered the storm, and it was, if you're going to have a problem, it's a great problem to have.
Yeah.
But every time we felt like we were going to catch up, the demand took another step ahead. And then we thought we were going to catch up again, and demand took another step ahead. And we were just out there trying to build systems and people and teams to keep up with the business. And again, we were fortunate to find the right people at the right time.
Yeah.
I guess we, it was a ton of fun, but it was also, very stressful. And if I look back at YETI and these stepping stones that we're talking about, to kind of sum up YETI, it's been, a ton of fun. And again, never in our wildest dreams did we ever think it'd be what it is. And but it's also been a ton of hard work and a lot of sacrificing along the way, and, sacrifice, your own pursuits. I think when Ryan's that elk hunt that he went on,
this was my last elk hunt. That was in 2005, and getting YETI started after that, and I didn't go elk hunting again until last year, 2017. So I had a 12-year break or whatever.
That's stressful.
So we thought we were starting a lifestyle company to go do things like that.
Yeah.
But it was everything we could do to keep up with the business and sacrificing our own pursuits, family. I didn't like leaving to work early and getting home at dark when I had a young family. Friends, I mean, those were, fourth priority. Yeah. But as the company has grown and we built out the team, Ryan and I have definitely taken a step back at YETI where we can refocus our priorities on the right health, family health and friends and being outdoors again.
So when the thing's growing like that, that company was growing, folks that, forget what it was like those years. I was in the building and I just remember having so many friends. I had so many, my third aunt's removed be like calling me up. Hey, haven't talked to you in 8 years. Just wanted to check in. And also, you got any of those cups laying around?
Yeah.
And I can only imagine what it was like for you guys. Did you ever, like, for both of you, there had to been, I just remember being around and seeing you from afar and thinking, like, there's some reluctance in this, because you got to be the face of, people want a reason to, other than the product, to jump into the brand, right? You create hashtags and created all that, but still they want an origin story. People want to know this story that you're telling right now.
Yeah.
And so then they want to interview you, put you on covers and have you be at some level the face of this thing. Was there reluctance there?
Yeah. First of all, it's not natural for Ryan and I to get up and talk to people or to be a part of an interview like this. If you call this an interview, I'm doing this for you, not for me.
Well, I got you at Waterloo. I got you a free soda there.
That's right. So it's not in our DNA to be. I don't know if this is the limelight, but whatever you call it, it's not in our DNA to be front and center. And but it definitely comes with the territory. I will say that I've gotten, and I think both Ryan and I have gotten really good at saying no, because it does come on a weekly.
Yeah. So why are you here? Because I thought you were going to tell me no right
you.
away.
For you, I'm only doing it for you because you came and worked for us for
okay.
4 years. 4 years.
4 years. And Ryan was like, "When's it going to end?" When we could get him out of here. But yeah, no, I
consider yourself lucky.
I do in a lot of ways. It's funny because I look back at that time and it was like being in a tornado.
Yeah.
Like you knew you were in a tornado.
Yeah.
You knew that everything around you was spinning way too fast for you to understand, but there's nothing you can do. You're just inside.
It's fun. It's fun, but
it's
is
fun.
a tornado. And I will say today at YETI, we're way more professional. I mean, Ryan, I was CEO up until 3 years ago. Ryan was right there beside me, and now we have a team that is deeply rooted into the outdoors and their history, but they're also very professional. Matt Reinsch is our CEO. He's a professional.
He's a
pro.
pro.
He is a pro, and he lives and breathes the brand like us, but he's a pro.
Yeah.
And those early days of the chaos and the shooting from the hip and the tornado, those are kind of, Matt has a handle on those things, and it's way more in control.
Yeah.
At times for me, it's a little bit frustrating because I feel like we're moving slow, but it's way more intentional. It's way more intentional where we're going and way more precise, and decisions are thought out.
Yeah, no, I think my third day there it was a sales meeting, and then somebody rolled in a Tundra 110 full of Franklin barbecue.
Yeah.
I was like, well, okay.
Yeah.
This is serious now.
It is
fun.
serious. But the fun thing now for Ryan and I is we get to kind of take YETI at our own pace, and we're still involved, and I'm still very involved on the product side, and that's where my passion is, and the product and the brand, we have a 60-person product team. So, at one time I was the product team. Now we have this machine that's full of bright people that are driving a product roadmap, and it's way bigger than
How crazy is that? 4 years ago when I walked in the door, it was you and Chris Kelly.
Yeah, that's right.
And DJ Bell. That's 3 people.
Yeah.
Now there's 60.
Yeah. And those are engineers to industrial designers. And it's fun to go in there and debate about product ideas and what's features and value add. But again, I can go fishing, be with the family, and I kind of go and come as I please.
Yeah. Well, that's important. I mean, I think once you become a brand like YETI has, like people start to ask questions and they start to, make assumptions. And so there's all these little things associated with the brand that I didn't want to let you out of here without asking or at least talking through some of the things that happen, because a lot of these are questions that you never thought of or things that you never wanted to happen. You just wanted a company to support yourself, and then it kept growing and kept growing and kept growing. And then all of a sudden people are saying, like, what are you going to do for conservation? You're like, well, I don't know. We're just doing this.
Yeah.
And so it's, I think probably the most important one I think is you guys are hunters and anglers. This is a hunting podcast.
Yeah.
When you see the company now, it serves many ecosystems, right? It serves, as we talked about, it serves hikers and campers and surfers and climbers.
Yeah. So let me interrupt there. So our laser focus in the early days was around hunting and fishing. We quickly realized that coolers was much bigger than that, and it started spilling over into these other markets like ranch and farming and it, the camping, tailgate, surfing community, and really, being outdoors, oil field construction. And so when we saw that happening, because
that was unintentional. You guys
we were designing for the hunting and fishing
and
community.
all the marketing was based around hunting and fishing.
But
and then as we saw it start spilling over, you can go so many different directions, but we had to pick. And So outside of hunting and fishing, we went into, beer and barbecue, into music, into just general outdoor camping, kayaking,
ranch and rodeo.
Yeah.
So I sorry to interrupt.
No, that's. I kind of knew the answer to the question, but I was trying to want to phrase it so everybody kind of understands that transition. So in marketing terms, it's like we have the core, the people that started with the brand, the people that were buying the product when Ryan was going to trade shows and you guys were going to trade shows and standing behind a table and trying to explain why this thing is what it is, why it's worth what it's worth.
O'Reilly Auto Parts are in the business of keeping your car on the road. O'Reilly Auto Parts offer friendly, helpful service and the parts knowledge you need for all your maintenance and repairs. If you're confused about what part you need, like what wipers are going to be the best, what replacement headlights are going to be the best, go into O'Reilly and talk to the people that work there because they're great and they're super friendly and they'll get you squared away where you walk out knowing you got the right thing. They've got thousands of parts and accessories in stock, either in-store or online, so you never have to worry if you're in a jam. Do you need your windshield wipers replaced? You need a brake light fixed? You need some quick service? They'll help you find the right part or point you to the nearest local repair shop for help. The professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts are your one-stop shop for all things auto do-it-yourself, and you can find what you need in-store or online. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts today or visit us at O'ReillyAuto.com/MeatEater. That's O'ReillyAuto.com/MeatEater. You ever get that feeling you're stuck inside staring at screens and a primal urge kicks in? You crave wide open spaces, fresh air, the chance to connect with the land. Well, maybe it's time to find your own piece of the wild, but searching for property can be a maze. That's where land.com comes in. They got millions of listings across the country, from mountain ranches to hidden fishing holes. Their search tools are like a seasoned guide helping you narrow down what you want. Land.com isn't just about buying and selling. It's about finding a place to hunt, fish, explore, or simply sit by a campfire and listen to the crickets. So head over to land.com today to turn one day into today, because trust me, there's nothing quite like the feeling of standing on your own piece of earth. There's nothing like snook hook sets at dawn or catching a tarpon in the moonlight. Find your next fishing trip made easy on fishingbooker.com and experience the magic of the Sunshine State or any other destination on your fishing bucket list. Book a blue water adventure in search of sailfish or go snapper fishing with the kids. With over 6,000 captains and trips to choose from, planning your next one just got a whole lot easier. Download the Fishing Booker app on the Google Play or App Store or visit them online at fishingbooker.com to book your trip today.
And then eventually you realize these other opportunities, the brand starts to grow, but you still have this group of people that were like, I was riding with you from day one.
Yeah.
Early adopters. I'm your people, you're my people. And I think that's every good company that grows goes through that. And I always explain it's a cooler. It was never a hunting cooler or a fishing cooler. It was only that because Roy and Ryan, that's what they loved. That's what they knew. That's what they did. So just explain now from 2018's point of view, how you look at that, what you would say to hunters and fishermen as this company grows. Like, we're with you. We've always been with you.
Yeah. I mean, the Tundra was designed around, it works great for any type of hunting adventure you go on, but the hard cooler was really designed with a lot of good features for fishing and being able to tie it down to a boat, being able to have a seat cushion on it or the sea deck.
Or use it as a casting platform.
Yeah, and so there were a lot of features that appealed to the hardcore fishing, person, and all those features didn't take away from it when you crossed over into hunting. And then we came out with the tan cooler, which we thought appealed to more of the hunting buyer, and but. Yeah, everything we did every ad we did on television and print was all based around hunting and fishing. And over time we did go beyond that. We still are. I was talking to one of our longtime TV guys today on the way over here in the fishing community. So we're still do that, but it just we had to pick areas to focus on. And eventually, right now we have about 6 or 7 markets that we actively advertise to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think from my seat at the table, it's very much there is, once you attach an ideology to something or get people excited around, hey, this is built for you. It's durable because you're going to beat the crap out of it. Like, you just got to return to them and say, still you.
Yeah.
Still you. It's still what, of all the different outdoor activities, Roy and I are still focused on hunting and fishing ourselves. And so
that's who we are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's why, like, talking to you guys, that's the important thing to say. The company is what it is because you made it that way.
Yeah.
And you're still that way.
That's right. And I would say that as we have expanded into these other markets, that core consumer is still the hunter, the fisherman, the outdoorsman. But it is a little bit tough to expand into other markets and not alienate that early adopter core consumer. And that's something we talk about every day is like, it's who we are. I mean, we are the early adopter. We are that core consumer. That's who Ryan and I represent.
Yeah. The other question you get all the time is the price question. Well, I think we've hopefully explained in this conversation a little bit why it is what it is. But you guys are, again, just regular dudes hunting and fishing.
Yeah.
Connecting with regular guys hunting and fishing. This was never a brand for people on yachts. It was never a brand for people that had a lot of money to spend.
No.
It was a brand for people that needed a certain thing.
The price came about more, Roy and I didn't really have a business background in school. And so to me, the price more came out of, hey, we want to build the best cooler possible. What is that end price going to look like?
Yeah. And so if we can find ways to add value, if whatever it might be, we're always going to look for ways for our pursuits. It was always about the best gear for our pursuits. And I think when we're out either chasing redfish, tarpon or whitetail or quail hunting, for whatever reason, because that's your passion, you always want kind of the best gear for those pursuits. And that could be a Sage fly rod or, a high-end optics, whatever that might be. But, and that's kind of, we took that same mindset to the cooler industry. And if we can find ways to add value, we're going to add value. Unfortunately, it's going to cost more and you have to charge more for it. And, the product is not for because of the price point, it's not for everybody, but it is going to be the best in class, and it's going to be the value add, and it's going to be durable and high performance, high quality, well thought out design and engineering.
Yeah, I've been around you guys enough to know, like, when somebody's wearing a pack or a pair of boots or something, the question is always, "What's that? What are you wearing there?"
Yeah,
because you want to have the best thing. Because maybe that guy's got something better. He knows something about it you don't know about.
That's right.
And that's
a boots, apparel, packs,
anything.
Guns, rods, reels, everything.
Anything.
It's fun to be kind of a gearhead and kind of chase the top of the line stuff for your pursuits.
Yeah. You guys have a boatload of kids now.
Yeah, I do.
4?
I got 5.
5?
Ryan
has
has
2.
Right? I knew that. Congratulations on the 5th. I didn't know about.
Yeah.
What would you tell your kids when they come of age? What would you want to teach them from the YETI story, your experiences? What's the first thing you might tell them that you learned?
Ryan, take a shot at that.
Yeah, well, it's real tough to think about that. The way Roy and I grew up out in the country, yet 25 miles from Austin with our dad, growing up in the small business. I mean, we had we had land leased right across the street from our house. We could go hunting before school in the morning. The way we grew up is hard for Roy and I to duplicate now. We live in Austin now. Yeah. We like Austin. I mean, it's a great place to live, great place to grow up. And we have places to take the kids hunting and fishing, and we do a lot of that. But, it's hard to relate to YETI now, as our kids get a little older. It's just not the same environment that we grew up in with our dad, seeing this, 1 or 2 man operation, going to the trade shows, answering the phone, shipping stuff out, all that. YETI just grew so far past that it's confusing.
Like I'll bring some of my kids up to work from time to time, but they can't even relate.
Yeah.
I mean, it's totally different. And I think that one thing that Ryan and I struggle with is we grew up hunting across the street from my parents' place on that lease land, and if we found an 8-pointer over there, like we were doing everything we can to.
And that was like the season goal. If you killed a hill country 8-pointer,
I love it. I say the same thing. I used to, when I grew up, it was like how many points?
Yes.
It was like, was he 6? Was he 7? Well, that's non-typical. Was he 8? That's typical. Was he 9? Well, that's non-typical. That's all it was. You just never. The numbers were so much lower.
So now Ryan and I have a place in South Texas, and we. It's a whitetail ranch, and we're into chasing free ranging whitetails, but when I take my kids down there, it's it's not reality.
Yeah.
It's the pursuit of chasing an 8-pointer is not there. It's like, okay, let's go shoot a doe because I don't want my son killing a
200-inch buck or
whatever
something.
it is.
Shout out to Ben Binion, by the way. I'm sure you're out there listening, Ben.
Hey,
hurry up, get to work.
Season is right around the corner.
That's true.
Yeah.
And we've been getting some trail cam pics, but they'll miss that. Our kids are going to miss the small business experience that we had, and they're going to miss it's hard to duplicate even the hunting that we were hunting on a budget as a kid.
Yeah, we were working our way up from hunting right across the street, trying to kill hill country 8
to getting invites from friends.
Yeah, then it's a friend that has a ranch that brings us down and just have a blast over a long weekend. And then going on day hunts down to South Texas. I remember doing some of that day bow hunts, like $150 a day, and then maybe a kill fee. I don't know. And then after that, Roy and I worked our way up to our Texas Panhandle lease, and that was unbelievable times. We had 8 other friends on there, and man, you look forward to the month of November, spend as much time there as you could.
Yeah.
And now having our own place down in South Texas, it's just really been the steps along the way. And it's running straight into our operation we have going on down South Texas. It's just
and so our kids are skipping all those steps that we took to get to South Texas.
Yeah, they'll know nothing more than having a big ranch.
I just got to manage the kids' expectations down there, and I kind of wish I could duplicate what I had growing up. I remember the night before the opening day, I couldn't go to sleep.
Me either. I
couldn't go to sleep, and it was the coolest thing, and the biggest thing across the street from our house was a shitty 8-point.
Yeah,
and
I got buckets full of skull cap spikes and stuff that are the coolest thing I ever saw.
I just hope my kids will lose sleep before the opening day of deer season.
Yeah. Well, we hope they get rest. I mean, we want them to be rested. But that's the great thing to say is like you'll never, at least Roger, at least your dad's around to make him go work at Flex Code.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And that's what I should be doing. I should be sending them out to Driftwood where our dad still operates that business and make them work in the business over the summers.
Get a little taste of that.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting one. I've got a little one now, and I think about that all the time. Of course, I don't have.
But you have access to all these great pursuits through your industry.
Yeah.
And as your kid grows up with you around, it's not going to be reality.
It's not going to be the same. Well, we're moving to Montana for very much so we can have no reality. We can live in a place where we can just run over to the Gallatin River whenever we need to, or run off and hunt an elk whenever we need to. That's very much what I was hoping to achieve there. But it's funny how generationally, I mean, your kids are going to be awesome. They're going to be great, but they just won't have it. They won't have what you have. Yeah. And that's because you guys had success.
Yeah.
So there's weird there. Is there any, what do you see for the future of this thing? Like,
I'm having I think we're both having a ton of fun being involved in YETI and kind of doing it at our own pace. But our future is a little bit of YETI and a little bit of, family first and pursuits. And I think we're excited about this upcoming hunting season. I think
Yeah.
Ryan, what do you have lined up? I guess you just got
Let's
back.
go. We got to tell some hunting stories.
Okay.
Ryan
Where are we
just
going to start?
Ryan took 12 years off from elk hunting.
Yeah.
Got one last year.
Got a real good one last year. And
then kicked the gears right up to sheep hunting.
Yeah, I had been about 4 or 5 years ago. I started applying for every sheep tag there was in the U.S. and I guess it's just the U.S. Every state that had sheep that you could apply for those Western type hunts. And I've always been just hardcore whitetail hunter, which obviously isn't very active, but it's a lot of fun. Whitetail is my favorite thing to hunt. But I always kind of had in the back of my mind, I got buddies going to Africa and doing all kinds of other crazy stuff. But I'd seen this book about sheep hunting, kind of the old school sheep hunting called Great Sheep and Great Sheep Hunters. And it's a lot of old black and white photographs. I think it's by Robert Anderson. And it's kind of a coffee table book, but it's really about the old sheep hunters and then some of these early days of sheep hunting and 21-day hunts, stuff like that. And so I thought it'd be neat to start putting in, try to draw one of these tags. And this last year I was actually quail hunting down in South Texas. Got a text message saying, hey, that I drew the toque tag in Alaska, which toque, I guess it's maybe a wilderness area in Alaska, was set aside in 1974 for Dall sheep management. And you can't the residents can't go buy a tag over the counter there. They do get preference in the draw system. But I think for my early season hunt, I think 5 non-residents drew this tag. I was one of them. So I felt real lucky to get it. And then I, have to get in shape for the hunt. People talk about being in sheep shape.
So here's the funny part of the story. How much weight did you lose?
I lost 22 pounds before I left on the hunt.
So give Ryan has a lot of motivation to lose a little weight.
Yeah.
And, he wasn't overweight to begin with, but give him a sheep hunt to work towards and he loses 22 pounds.
I heard all these stories I heard like guys would come into the office and be like, I was hiking the Barton Creek Trail and there was Ryan.
The hill life. The hill life.
I had my backpack on going up and down that in 100 degrees.
We did that. DJ and I did that years ago training. So
Ryan started training.
I knew it'd be miserable hunt, or it would be tough to get through it without losing some weight and getting in better shape. And I always exercise a lot, but just kind of eat too much, eat whatever I want, and then kind of let myself go on that regard. But I started eating healthier, kind of lower carbs, and
But you had an app though, right? A nutrition app.
So MyFitnessPal. That's I actually ended up having a guy help me out, and he wanted me to get going on MyFitnessPal and logging everything you eat. And I did some of that, but really what I boiled down to is eating just more, protein and fat and less carbs, and that the weight just started dropping, and cutting out most of your alcohol.
And
exercising. Yeah, the alcohol part's hard for a lot of people. I did okay with it. It wasn't a big deal.
You give yourself cheat day, maybe like
not too much. I mean, there was a couple days. Did real good in a fishing tournament that I was in, and I had a cheat evening that evening there. But overall, I enjoyed the process of gearing up for the sheep hunt, all the gear that goes into it. And then the training, and then the eating healthier, losing the weight, the whole experience, and then the hunt went great.
You flew down your sheep guide.
Yeah.
From where was he based?
Well, he guides in Alaska for about 4 or 5 months a year, and then he's out of Idaho, and so
you flew him. Ryan flew him down to Austin.
We would call this unorthodox.
Yeah, it was. It's the first time anybody had requested that, but in order to try to everything you put in your pack, it counts as weight. And I wanted to be really organized. And so I felt like there were I got a list of what I need to bring, but I still felt like there were some gaps in it, and how you pack the pack, how you get it to fit right, all that kind of stuff. So I bought his plane ticket. He came down, spent a day and a half with me. We hiked up and down the steepest stuff we could find in Austin, got the pack all fitted right, knew what I could, we went through all my gear. Obviously this is a month before the hunt, and got rid of the stuff that he didn't need, because he's been doing this and knows what you need and don't need. And that was as important as anything. And just showing how to pack up the pack right.
Yeah.
And that gave me a lot more confidence going into the hunt and who I was going to be spending time with during the hunt. This guide, his name's Brandon, and
shout out to Brandon. I mean I was telling somebody about that. I was like, yeah, the packing is good, so you'll be comfortable and you know what's on your back. But the time spent with the individual that you have to be stuck with, for that amount of time is way more important than what you learned about packing.
Yeah. So and that was nice to meet him and know what I was getting into before I travel up to Alaska for a week, or maybe
potentially spend 12 days with him or whatever it was.
Yeah. So it.
Just make sure he's not, he likes jerky, he likes the right flavor, Mountain House.
So it was a lot of fun. Had a great sheep hunt, and my first Super Cub experience. So that.
Oh, you were nervous. You were very nervous about.
Yeah, I don't like one pilot and me sitting right behind him, but it was real comfortable and enjoyed.
Saw a grizzly.
Yeah, saw a grizzly. First
Right.
time I think I probably camped in grizzly country.
Yeah.
And was able to see one on opening day of sheep season. That was pretty wild. And but overall, just fun being up in that country, seeing all the experience. First time to Alaska and to experience all that, that Toke Wilderness area or management area, and to kind of, see what I had been reading about for so long in all these sheep type books or picture books or whatever, to actually be there in that country was pretty special.
Yeah, and you were saying you're very happy to have drawn that tag and to have some way. I mean, it's you can't say really earn the tag, but the way that you got the tag was natural.
Yeah, I mean, some sheep hunts you could just pay to go on as part of an outfitter, and I had to pay it. Alaska requires you to hire an outfitter before you even apply for the tag, or to have a contract signed with the outfitter. So they won't let you go on your own if you're a non-resident, which I wouldn't want to go on my own anyway. I was glad to have this guide with me.
Yeah.
But it was neat to draw that tag and to be able to go on that hunt. It was such a limited amount of people that get to go into the Toke and hunt sheep.
Yeah.
So the question is are you going to chase the other 3 sheep?
I'd like to now. I wanted to see how this first hunt went, but I had such a good time. I would like to try to figure out how to
the desert bighorn,
Rocky
Mountain.
Yeah, desert bighorn, Rocky Mountain bighorn, and then the stone sheep,
which
I think is British Columbia, Yukon, maybe.
It is all that country. We were shooting a Yeti film last year and was in the Northwest Territories for where the Dall sheep were, and a little bit east and north of where stone sheep hang out. And it's when I first realized what that country's all about, and that, it has to give you a perspective change. I mean, you guys are from Texas, you're hunting lease property. I mean, it's, there's adventure down here. Rattlesnakes are most of the adventure in Texas. Well, did you come back from that with a different perspective on hunting, or just your own desire?
Yeah, it's just
to do
a
stuff
different type of hunting. I mean, I love the whitetail hunting. I love sitting, these days hunting particular deer that you find on camera, which we used to. It was also exciting when you went out there and had no idea what was going to come out. But I found plenty of challenge in hunting deer off of trail cam photos. But being out there in the wilderness, seeing how insignificant you feel out there, how big that country is, and how you really don't want to make any mistakes. While you're
you
out
feel
there.
There's exposure to it.
Yeah,
there's in hunting in South Texas, you don't feel exposed at all.
But out there with the weather, with even though there's
terrain.
With the terrain getting hurt out there, with bears, even though no matter how small the possibility is of getting attacked by a bear or a shark somewhere, it's still out. The thought's out there in the back of your mind.
Well, that's it. It's those singular things that happen. You're probably in more danger driving to the airport than you are if you get eaten by a bear. But when you I saw a bear, same circumstance. You're just like, that's too close. Like, that's a mile away. I'm like, that's what I'm saying. It's too close. And you shot a good sheep.
Yeah, I did. We were able to scout before the season opened, and we found 3 rams the first afternoon we were out there. The next morning, the season, that was Thursday, season opens on Friday. So Thursday, we went out to try to get a better look at one of those rams. And while we were trying to get closer, we found another, group or band of rams up here, kind of over our left-hand shoulder. When we crossed the creek, we could see back up there, and we spent from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. glassing and watching these rams interact that day, butting heads, messing with each other. And it was a pretty cold day. I was at killing time as we were glassing. I would eat, I'd been eating so healthy. I ate about 3 or 4 candy bars and little fruit snacks and kind of OD'd on the sugar. So I'm hopefully done with that.
That's the worst part about the training for these mountain hunts. You train, you get real healthy, and you're feeling good. Then you go on the hunt. They're like, well, here's a bag of dehydrated salty crap, a Snickers bar, and a can of tuna. You're like, wait a minute. I spent my whole time eating right for this. Now I got to eat salt pouches for.
So, now that the sheep hunt's over this year, that was kind of a lot earlier than I'm used to starting to hunt. I'd like to get in a couple more red fishing trips on the fly rod, and then
dove season will be here in a week or two.
Yeah,
I was walking around my house last night, and there were doves flying circles.
A good dove hunt for me is top notch. It's about as good as it gets.
Well, that's why there's the YETI bucket.
Yeah, that's right.
Because of your stuff. I always surmise, I'm like, the reason that exists.
Yeah. We're working on a swivel seat for that.
I heard about that.
And that's going to be
That's right, yeah.
I hunt South Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas. And so Kansas season will get started here mid-September.
Yeah.
And then Kansas quail season opens up mid-November. And so I'll start hunting quail in Kansas around then and transition into South Texas.
That's something over the last our granddad was a big quail hunter, and we got to hunt a little bit with him when we were kids before he passed away or got too old to hunt. But that's something that recently Ryan and I have kind of got back into is the quail hunting.
Yeah.
I think I'll return to Texas every year if I can to hunt quail.
Yeah.
Probably be texting you guys. Hey,
watching the dogs work and just the whole atmosphere of following around the dogs and anticipating that covey rise is so much fun.
Yeah, and the quail populations in Texas, especially down where you guys are on your ranch, is unbelievable. You could walk around. I walked around there by myself a couple times and shot a dozen quail.
Yeah. Hopefully we get another good year. We haven't been getting much rain down there this spring or summer, so I'm not sure what that has done to the quail population, but we'll see.
We got to keep them going.
Yeah.
Well, boys, thanks for bringing me down to Texas.
Yeah. Well,
fun ride.
You're one of the folks that made it happen. Like I said, a lot of good people at YETI, and that's the reason for our success. And you're just one of the good ones.
Well, I appreciate that. And when I look back, I was saying this in another podcast or in something like that. You look back on your life, there's stages. Like you guys have stages. Your
stepping stones.
Stepping stones, right? And if you're doing it right, everything's a stepping stone.
Yeah.
So you're not falling off any of those stones or anything.
Occasionally you'll fall off.
Occasionally you fall off, just back up. But for me, this is like this. My son was born in this state.
Yeah,
My son will forever be
a Texan,
which if he's a Texan and a Montana, I would be happy split.
Oh gosh, he's great. He's good.
He's gonna be good. So I would say I genuinely, this time in my life was very much transformative, and part of wanting to have you on is because I knew your story. Everybody should know it. Not because the three of us here wanted to buy coolers. You should do that.
Yeah.
But it's because it's a success story, and you guys aren't. You're normal guys who love something and turned it into this massive success that have affected other people's lives, mine included. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's the story that matters, not, why the cooler is so damn durable.
Yeah. Well, thank you. It's been a lot of fun, and wish you the best of luck on your next journey. And thanks for your 4 years here in Texas.
Yeah, come hunt elk with me.
I will. Let's do it.
Ryan, you got a lot of years to
kill some elk.
To make up. 12 years to make up. All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you, Ben.
Bye.
That's it. That's all. Episode number 27 in the books. Thank you to Roy Seiders. Thank you to Ryan Seiders for joining me at the YETI flagship store in Austin, Texas. It was a great conversation. They have one of the craziest stories, not only in business, but just in life, for where they started and where they are now. And I can't wait to watch those boys and their company in the future. I think it was important to have that conversation for many reasons, but I just want to be able to reflect on my time there and let you guys know what good folks the Seiders brothers are and how important they are to me. So a couple days after that podcast, I got in a U-Haul and drove 26 hours up to Bozeman, Montana. And it's where we'll be for hopefully a very long time. And so we'll have some news in coming podcasts about exactly why we're here and what we're doing with the podcast and what it will be a part of. That's coming very soon, very, very soon. So hopefully you can stick around for that. In the meantime, thehuntingcollective.com, articles, videos, of course, podcasts, a lot of good ones. Check out all our Texas podcasts, starting with Wyman Menzer, Russell Cunningham, Omar Crispy Avila, and then this one. I want to close by saying thanks to Texas for having me. Thanks for letting me live in your beautiful city of Austin and changing my life. We'll see you next time on the Hunting Collective.
You ever get that feeling the walls closing in, the concrete jungle suffocating you? You crave some wide open spaces, the chance to connect with nature, maybe in a spot all your own. Well, head over to land.com. They've got ranches, forests, mountains, streams, you name it. Search by acreage. You can search by location. You can search by the kind of hunting and fishing you're dreaming of. Land.com. It is where the adventure begins. After 3 years of work, our follow-up to the Meat Eater Fish and Game Cookbook is here. It's the Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook, wild game recipes for the grill, smoker, campfire, and camp stove. Here is your book for everything that's best cooked or eaten outside. From grilling to open fire cooking to Dutch ovens to smokers to barbecue to backpacking meals to how to pull off the perfect fish fry, with pit stops along the way for lessons about Ice Age cooking methods and the best 5 ways to construct a cooking fire you can be proud of. And of course, we're focusing on wild game and fish here with over 100 recipes, including stuffed venison burgers 3 ways, wild duck with ahi verde sauce, a jerky made with cola, a gin and tonic made with fire-charred lemons, and grilled frog legs made with a sticky sweet sauce. This ain't your normal cookbook, so be prepared to be surprised. Get your copy now. For more info, visit themeateater.com or buy it wherever books are sold.